Welcome back, everyone. We're looking at some more questions that we got on the book of Philippians here with my good friend and brother, Jackson Lindgren. If you want to find out some of the great content Jackson's putting out, where you can find him, check that in the description, the show notes if you're on podcast, or in the video description for those of you watching on YouTube and seeing both of our faces as we work through these things together. One of the questions I think you and I are both really excited for comes out of Philippians chapter 1, and we're really looking forward to talking about this. Something we both have passion for. Comes specifically out of verses 9 through 11. Paul says, "In this I pray, that your love may overflow still more and more in real knowledge and all discernment, so that you may discover the things that are excellent, that you may be sincere and blameless for the day of Christ, having been filled with the fruit of righteousness, which comes through Jesus Christ, for the glory and praise of God." So the question we want to ask is, how do we go about answering this prayer for us of discerning the things that are excellent? How do we approach that, and how do we make that happen?
Well, it comes down to the two words that I read here in the New King James or the King James at the end of verse 9 and the beginning of verse 10, is that's judgment and approving. So those two words, their definition from the Greek is to perceive or perception and testing. And it makes me think of the concept of the difference between that of a student and a consumer. And I almost think of it as if the scripture is telling us, use your brain. Just think about this. Just, I'm not going to insult your intelligence here. You can approve these things. We know you know how to do this. Whereas the consumer mentality is just, we're going to hand it to you. We're going to appeal to your baser nature. Don't think about it. Don't worry. Just consume, and everything will be okay. And then consume again when you get tired and you need more. And so it's about the difference between having the mindset of that of an inquisitive student versus that of a mindless consumer. A mindless consumer is not going to be able to approve that which is excellent because their mind isn't focused on that which is excellent. You think of nutrition facts in the store, you go to get food. If you're approaching the store as a consumer who is just there to get what makes you feel good, you're going to grab anything that is a colorful packaging is going to appeal to you. Pretty wrapping is going to appeal to you. Memory of the taste is going to appeal. Whereas if you're going in there with the mindset of a student, of an inquisitive student that wants to get the best out of your trip to the store, you're going to read the nutrition facts. You're going to see the ingredients. You're going to see the percentages of the macros, whatever. And you're going to discern and test that which is going to be the most excellent that you can put into your body.
Yeah.
We almost wish that there might be some kind of metaphysical nutrition fact on the back of every situation that comes to us, and like, man, I wish I knew how many spiritually upbuilding points this is going to bring me, how many spiritually downbuilding points it's going to give me. But to a degree, we can perceive that if we have this mindset of a student, if we have this judgment and this idea of discerning. And yeah, that's my general take on it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, what I think you're really getting to is there's got to be this heart in it of what we want to do. Because even with nutrition facts, I know nutrition facts exist, and there's still tons of times that I'm like, nah, I'm gonna ignore those and go for this other thing, right? Like the prevalence of information isn't the only thing you need. There's got to be a heart to want to apply that thing,
right?
And so I think as we seek to do what's excellent, we've really got to have a heart for that. That we've been called to excellence. First Peter or Second Peter chapter 1 talks about we've been called to glory and excellence. We haven't been called to mediocrity. And I think sometimes we can live lives where we're like, what's the minimum I can do, and what's the least I can get away with, and what's the bare amount that I can scrape by with, and still go to church. I go to heaven when I die, and people leave me alone. And that sort of attitude is quite the opposite of what Paul's praying that we would be about.
And it's a very upbuilding way to live, to know that you hear people say live life to the fullest, and that can be such a trite and YOLO way of looking at things.
Yeah.
But this kind of idea of being excellent and striving for things that are excellent and approving the things that are excellent. You ever been like in a groove in your life where you were just knocking out things that were purposeful again and again, and you were just on a roll? And do you remember how good that felt?
Oh yeah,
to be able to do that. Like, people call it being in the zone, being in a state of flow where things just come to you naturally. This can be in cognitive activities like writing notes, writing sermons, writing podcast episodes, studying. Things are just clicking with you, and we know and can look back on those times and realize that was fun. That felt good. the thing we got out, as opposed to the output of energy that we put into it, was a great feeling. And then we can look back at the things that were super easy and that weren't excellent, that were these minimal output. We knocked on the door lightly during the work week before the gospel revival, and we were trying to tell people about the meeting. We were trying to invite people to talk about Jesus, and we just lightly tap on the door, and we don't want anybody to come to the door, and we just slip the folder in there, or we slip the flyer in.
Yeah.
Minimum, and we satisfied some sense of we did it, as opposed to we actually had a hard conversation with somebody. We actually got in a sense of being uncomfortable, and we grew because of it. That to me is somewhat at the core of this idea of discerning that which is excellent. It's almost like the things that are excellent are going to be difficult by nature to a degree, and that's where the growth happens. Because not to get too deep into symbolism or anything, but it's like that word excellent. It's got several definitions that I'm looking at here in my Strong's, but one of them is to surpass, and so it's got this element of elevation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like to reach something that's high up is going to be difficult,
Yeah, absolutely. No, well, yeah, I'm with you here. In terms of the how, I want to circle back to a couple of things that are both sides of it. He says rooted and grounded in love. That I think one of the things that's really essential for excellent behavior is being knit with our fellow Christians, because there's things you and I have worked through. If anybody's caught the other episodes, we've talked a lot about technology and some of the mindsets that we're coming to about this thing, specifically with handheld devices and that sort of stuff, and realizing like how to do this appropriately and not. And part of the way we've done that is together. How are we excellent in our technology intake? Well, I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I'm getting to a better spot because me and Jackson have talked about it so much. And because we have a love for each other, we can challenge each other on these things. And he can say, hey, this is how much time you're spending. You need to cut that out. Hey, I can say, this is what you're doing. You need to cut that out. Because we have that mutual love and care, we can then move forward to those two other targets of what's going to bring about purity and what's going to bring about good works. And so whatever behavior it is, those are the two targets we're moving for. And together with the people of God, we have this right mindset, this right heart. And those are the standards by which we evaluate it. What is an excellent behavior? You may be like, well, what is excellent? What is it for it to be a cut above, like you're talking about? Well, does it bring about people doing good works? And does it bring about holiness? And if it does those two things, go for it. And if it doesn't, maybe see if we could find something else.
Absolutely.